I'm a feminist, but recently at a show I told this story, this I'm a feminist but, and it leads on to something. I'm a feminist but, so if you're listening to this at home and you're thinking, we've heard this one, no, you haven't. This is a build-on, okay? This is the original I'm a feminist but. I'm a feminist, but I found out when sleazy men check out or try to talk to my goddaughter, she loves telling them, I'm 13. She's in fact 13. Because it freaks them out and they run away. So now I use it. And so I just thought on the... Someone was like, oh, you're so thick or something, just saying nice ass sort of thing. I was walking up an escalator and someone said nice ass on the tube. And I just thought, I could use this. Because I love the idea of these men like freaking out. So I just turned around and went, I'm 13. And he just didn't know what to do. He did not know what to do. Because I think he looked at me like, have you got some kind of ageing disease or something? Because some people do. There's a whole musical about a girl who's 13 but has an ageing disease and looks older. So he just was like freaked out. I told the audience last night and I said, could you please report back what happens, thinking over the next month or so. 2 people have already got back. And they are my next I'm a feminist butts. But you need to know what it is. The campaign is called I'm 13. But we need to rope 13-year-olds into it because if they don't know who's 13 and who isn't, it's going to be more confusing. And I don't know how
I can
ethical...
see some problems there.
OK, we'll discuss those problems in the next I'm a feminist butt. Do yours first.
I'm a feminist, but I think men should always put up the camping equipment.
I've no problem with that.
Yeah, I've got no issue with that.
I don't see that as not a feminist thing.
That is an erection I don't need to help out in any way, shape or form.
Listen, thousands of years of patriarchy, there's got to be some pushback on that.
And they love it.
Do you enjoy putting up camping equipment? He does. There you go. It's all the proof we need.
Yeah.
Now, there are a few PhD scientists in. Can you confirm that that's as much proof as I need to know that all men enjoy putting up camping equipment? Could you just confirm that? If you're feminists, you will. Sorry, what was that?
You need an N of 3 at least.
3. We need 3? Okay. Can are 2 more men going to do the right thing
There's
for
one
feminism? There. Well, I don't think you can't just point
and there's one there.
You can't just point at people anymore and say what their gender is. You can't do that. Okay, so does anyone want to say, I'm a man and I enjoy putting up camping equipment? And if you would say it, you're doing it for feminism. Okay. To pop up tents can. Yes, we will accept those. Yes, pop up tents do count. Yes.
I'm a man and I adore putting up camping.
Oh! Just had one person say, I am a man and I adore putting up camping equipment.
I instantly became moist.
Yeah, but it sounded like an innuendo, didn't it, the way he said it?
He said it in a very, very sexual way.
Very sexual way,
yeah.
very sexual way.
I adore
Putting
up tents.
And we've also got to pop up tents count. That doesn't sound like I am a man and I like putting up camping equipment. It's just like a curmudgeonly... Well, pop-up tents, where are you? Do you like putting up pop-up tents? Yes. Okay.
He's never been camping in his life.
He's trying to help out feminism.
He's trying to alpha it up just to try and balance out the old man who gets turned on by tents.
No,
He's like, I'm pretty good with the old tent action.
Poor men, we've asked them to contribute and they're contributing. We cannot now mock them. Well, we can, but we shouldn't. We shouldn't. Anybody else? Any other men would be prepared to chip in?
I'm a man and I enjoy putting up camping equipment.
Hey! Okay, are the scientists in the room now happy? All... Ria Lina's not happy, but Ria Lina, we're doing this for feminism.
Okay.
Why, do you like putting up tents, Ria?
No, I'm just saying you can't keep going till the science gives you the answer you want.
You can't
so
keep...
I'm just saying, we kept going till we got the answers we wanted.
Okay, yeah. Ria Lina is saying you can't keep going until you get the answers you want because that's psychology. That's not science. I've added the last part about psychology, but I think it is true. In psychology, you keep going till you get the answers you want.
As someone with a D in GCSE maths, I think you'll find.
Excellent. All right,
we've done
the best that we can do. Okay, all right, I'm going to do one. I'm a feminist, but because of my incredible I'm 13 experiment, which is obviously morally dubious, I have 2 pieces of feedback from women who last night on their way home had an experience and contacted me. One woman said she was catcalled and she said to the man, I'm 13. And the man said, I'm so sorry, please don't report me.
old was she?
I think 35, around that age, by the sound of it.
That's mental.
And another man was just sort of doing, I think, quite a sleazy hit on public transport where you can't get away. And this woman said she was 28, and she said, I held my head really still. I just looked at him and went, I'm 13. And he said, no, you're not. But got off at the next stop and ran away really fast. It works! It works!
Can we do it for loads of stuff, like go to a bar and when they serve you, just go, how dare you, I'm 13.
Well, I want drinks, so I don't want to use it for that.
Fine.
No. I can't believe I've got 2 already. I only said it last night. 2.
Oh, I'm going to do it.
I'm a feminist.
Lust for life.
But I really hope that I get catcalled on the way home tonight just so I can do it. Because I just want to try the experiment now. It's that terrible, but I'm sort of walking down the street going, go on, try it. Go on, try it, because I'm 13. It's so absurd. It's so absurd, but I can see why it works. I can see why.
Could you not have like different variations of just like different things you could say? So like maybe get people to try out 3 or 4.
Well, we could. Have you got any others?
No.
Okay. Well, we'll workshop some others. Have you got any more I'm a Feminist parts?
I'm a feminist, but I really, really can't put up pictures. I have to use those sticky things if I want. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I can't drill the. No.
No,
We're back to the old tent issue again, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really want to ask the men in the audience if they enjoy drilling. So I feel already this show has got too much sexual innuendo in it. Have you got any more I'm a Feminist parts?
I'm a feminist. I feel like they're all based around the same theme. I'm a feminist, but I really fucking hate barbecues.
Yeah.
What a shit meal. It's just shit. Just meat and tongs.
I get it.
And men love it, don't they? They love it. They love the tents and the barbecues and the tongs. Can you tell I've just come back from camping and I'm fucked off about it?
Oh, I see.
I didn't put up any pictures, though, in the tent.
I was going to say, how does putting up pictures come into camping?
I just like to be really at home.
Live from Soho Theatre in London, the Spontaneity Shop presents The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, guest co-host Esther Manito, and our very special guest, Ria Lina, talking about news-life balance. Hello, and welcome. Here we are doing feminism on a Saturday night. Like real feminists. There are feminists out. People are, oh yeah, I'm feminist on a Monday morning, but where are they now? In the pub. That's where they fucking are. They're not out here. Here you are doing feminism with a drink in your hand. That's right. You're smashing the patriarchy on a Saturday night. No rest for the well-intentioned. That's what I say. Just give us a cheer if you listen to The Guilty Feminist. Give us a cheer if you don't know what you're at. Now, notice that your cheer sounds less empowered. Less feminist, if you will. Were you brought here tonight? Who brought you? Amar. Are you in Amar? I don't want to pry. Are you on a date? Oh. Well, let's find out. The rest of you can leave, to be honest. This is all I'm interested in now. So you're with Amar, but you're not sure if it's a date. Oh, what is a date? Got a great question, Amar. No, we've just all been in these situations, haven't we? Where we're on a thing and we don't know if it's a date. I'll just give us a cheer if you've been on a situation where you're like, is this a date or is this just a friend thing? Or did he... Okay, Amar, we've all been in this state of lack of clarity before and we've all struggled with it. Our catharsis will come in knowing, on behalf of Valeria, is this a date? Amar also doesn't know if it's a date. That's not what they wanted to hear, Amar. I think that's an unpopular answer. Is there a right answer? I mean, yeah. Even a man said yes. Even a man said yes, there's a right answer there, Amar. No, listen, Amar, this is not for us to pry. What do you do for a living, Amar? You're an extra in TV and films. Excellent. And Valeria, what do you do? Trying to be a musician. Okay. No, the thing is...
I make the music, but I don't get paid.
You make the music, yes. Well, then you are a musician, okay? I'm going to ask you, what do you do? And I'd like you to answer me pretending you're a man who's half as good as you, okay? What do you do, Valeria?
I'm the sickest producer ever made.
There you go. Well, listen, I wish you well on whatever this situationship is or isn't. I wish you very well. Amar, do you listen to the show? You do. And you thought Valeria would enjoy it, and so you invited her along. Well, thank you for doing that, whatever your other motivations are. Now, the number of third dates that come to this show where the man's booked it, I've discovered it's a real pattern over the years. I'm not saying that's your situation, Amar. I'm not saying... really don't think it is. I really don't think it is. Let's just pretend Amar and Valeria are living their own lives now, none of our business anymore, because I don't want to put them under pressure, because Amar likes the show, or has up until now. So much so, he's brought someone and sat in the front row, and now he's thinking, I'm a feminist, but I'll never be fucking listening to this again. Poor Amar. All he's doing is getting about his life. He doesn't want to be interrogated by me. But it was so difficult not to, and so I decided to do it. Now, just give us a cheer if you think you've got a feminist job. I know that more people do, because I know who my audience are. I'll tell you exactly who my audience are. There are three groups. My audience are the people with a very feminist job, like, I don't know, they work with refugees, they work in literacy, they work in something specific, an industry or some kind of social services that make life better in terms of gender equality. Or there's a second group where they do something sort of generally making the world better. They work in climate change, NHS, teaching, something like that. Or they're people doing a PhD about Virginia Woolf. That's true. I'm not making that up. Just give us here if you're doing a PhD about Virginia Woolf. No, well, that's the first time that's ever happened. Who's doing a PhD, though? Me. Yes, of course. I've never not had someone doing a PhD in my audience. Never not. And there'll be more people. Just give us here if you've got a PhD. Yeah. Go to a Ricky Gervais show, ask that question. And I'll tell you, 90% of his audience won't know what a PhD is. I'm not wrong. I'm not saying clever people don't like Ricky Gervais. I'm just saying they're in the vast minority. Person doing the PhD, what's your doctorate in? Biology. So you're a woman in STEM? Yes. I don't want to impose gender on you. Are you a woman in STEM?
Yes.
You are a woman in STEM. But the PhDs always have a really long title, the dissertations. What's yours?
It was activation of kinesin 1 by true effectors of salmonella, CFA, and another one.
Okay. So normally, if I ask that question, because I have a lot of PhDs in, I probe a bit further. But I can see there's absolutely no point. Thank you for being so clever and solving things. You're solving something to do with salmonella. Is that the idea? Not anymore. What's happened? Have you discovered you can't? Okay, you're working with antibodies. What are you curing ultimately? Cancer. Amen. So you're literally curing cancer. Am I wrong? And when I said who's got a feminist job, hardly anyone said woo. But as it turns out, other PhDs, what's your PhD in? Yes?
Herpes viruses.
Herpes? Okay. Now, Ria, you're our guest today. And I obviously want to big my guest up and make her feel very important. And I feel embarrassed now because your PhD is in herpes and I've just found someone who's curing cancer. And I find that awkward for you. And I'm sorry. Herpes is also important. It's also important.
So herpes viruses are used as viral vectors to solve and cure things like cancer.
There you go, 2 cancer curers. There we go, 2 people curing cancer. Well saved, Ria Lina. Ria Lina, our guest today, and she's currently... But you've left curing cancer to do comedy, haven't you? Yeah.
Sorry. Keep the fight going whenever you are.
Yeah.
Torch.
Yeah. If you're listening at home, Ria Lina said, keep the fight going, here's the torch. but from a front row position of utter glamour. Who thinks they've got a more feminist job than curing cancer? Just give us a cheer. No? Okay. All right. Who thinks they've got somewhat of a feminist job? Just give us a cheer. Yes? What's yours?
I'm an architectural technologist. It's like an architect, but more technical. I have to work with a lot of builders.
Oh. So you have to go in and tell builders what to do?
Yeah, and often when I walk in, they're not expecting it.
What are they expecting?
Just not me.
You're a young woman and they're not expecting it. How do you deal with it? What are your strategies?
I just tell them, well, the drawings you're looking at there, I did those.
Do they respond with respect?
There's an element of surprise always.
But do you win them over?
Eventually, yeah.
Well, you're doing the Lord's work. What's your name? Zoe. Big round of applause for Zoe, everybody. Does anyone think they have an unfeminist job? An unfeminist job? Yes, what's yours? I'm a menswear designer. A menswear designer. So fashion, but leaving us right out of it. Yep. Listen, I sort of think that could be good. Do you ever do stealth feminism? Because I would come in with sort of plunging necklines and shapewear within the trousers, that kind of thing. The things we are... Just sort of make a really new trend of, like, cripplingly painful shoes, things like that. Have you ever done anything like that?
I would say just, like,
making men dress better every day, just as a service. Listen, my porn is a man in a well-cut suit. So as far as I'm concerned, you were doing a lot for feminism. There are some things I need to get what I get done. And what's your brand, can you say? A big company in the UK. Okay, so you don't particularly want to advertise them?
I don't want to say.
You don't want to say? What is it? Is it one of the ones where people might go boo?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Let's just keep private. Let's get back to you two. We're on a date. I get it. Well, listen, thank you for doing men in well-cut suits. That came out wrong, but you know what I mean. Are we ready to start the show? My co-pilot for this evening is an incredible comedian. She is on here nightly at the Soho Theatre, including she's doing a show upstairs in the Soho Theatre later tonight. Please put your hands together and make incredible woohooing noises for the wonderful Esther Manito. Hey! How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Great, okay.
End of that.
This is The Guilty Feminist, the podcast in which we explore our noble goals as 21st century feminists and our hypocrisies and insecurities which undermine them. And today we are talking about news-life balance and how we balance so much news and how we feel about it as feminists and activists and just people who care about the world, and also how we balance our own home life and how often you can feel guilty about one or the other. Would you like to do some stand-up comedy?
All right, then.
Would you like to see some stand-up comedy? Please welcome to the stage the incredible Esther Manito!
Oh, hello! Hello! Oh, what a surprise! I love Soho audiences. I particularly love audiences of Guilty Feminist, but I will be completely honest. I've just spent 5 weeks on summer holidays with my kids. So even if Deborah asked me to do stand-up out the back of Majestic Wines behind a bin, I'd fucking be there. That's how desperate I am to be out the house, because I've come to a little realisation over the last few weeks. I've come to really kind of get to know, how I feel about family life, and I've come to realise that me and my husband and our 2 kids, we're all just better off as friends. I don't really want to be involved anymore, honestly. If we could just set up a WhatsApp group and I could just mute it, that's the kind of level of involvement I want with my own family. Can you give me a cheer if you got kids? And just my own little workings out, just my own little calculations. Can you give me a cheer if you don't have kids? See, they're just happier, aren't they? They're just happier. They really are. Because, think about it. All those people that cheered the second time, you're all people that have got money, right? You're all people with savings accounts. You're all people that have slept. You're people that have never been woken up at 4 a.m. with a small person stood over you going, "Mum, what's the difference between a crane and a digger?" Don't know, my darling. I'm so blessed. I'm very blessed. Very blessed to have you. It's 4 a.m. My God. Very blessed. And I'm like, no, let's be more honest about what happens when you have children. There are little things that nobody warns you about. Like, nobody tells you before you have kids that the moment you have kids, you're going to be stalked in your own house. Nobody tells you about that, right? Especially if you have boys, right? I tell you what, every single bloke in here, when you were little, you stalked your mum, right? You were stalkery. I'll be sat in my house minding my own business, and all of a sudden I just feel this little stalkery presence just creeping up on me, and it's my lad, and he'll just come up and stand in front of me and just make intense eye contact, and he's just there going, I love you. One day I'm going to marry you. I'm like, baby, I love you too, but is there any way you can get off my lap and let me take a shit in peace? Honestly, because they don't leave you alone. They're so fucking stalkery. So over the holidays, I just shove my kids on iPads, right? My other half, just stick him on BBC Sport, and I'm like, right, I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to have a shower. Just to be alone. Just to be by myself. And as I'm standing there in the shower, just relaxing, having a minute to myself, all of a sudden, through the steam, I just see that handle slowly turning. And all I hear is ma, 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 ma. Mummy, 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 mummy. And then my husband pops up from behind the children. He's like, hey, you're in the shower. Shall I join you? Fuck off! Leave me alone. Honestly, it sends you mad. And the thing is I'm the mother of a son, right? I give it the large on stage, slagging them off. We're psychotic. Mothers of sons are mental, right? I thought before I had my boy, I was like, I'm going to be such a feminist and I'm going to raise him to be a feminist. No, I'm ruining him. I'm destroying him. I'm overbearing. My God, I know for a fact that me and my son, we're going to end up like those creepy mother-son combos you see walking around Aldi. I'll be 80, he'll be 45 with a big gut and a comb over, and I'll just be behind him pushing the trolley going, you like your beans, don't you, darling? Yes, yes. No, don't text that girl back, she's a slag. You just stay with me, yes. Meanwhile, my daughter, who hasn't been overly coddled, she'll probably go off and work for the UN, and I'll just be at home with my giant son, just sat there going, I've laid your pants out for you, nice. You stay with me, my God. And I had a woman, right, after I did that joke on stage, a woman, she got in contact with me and she said, I have a son and a daughter and I think of them both equally. I was like, how dare you? I think of my children equally. I really think of them equally. In fact, I've just come back from a week's camping, which, FYI, is not a fucking holiday. It's just being a medieval maid in a field, right? And I've come to the conclusion I think of them both completely equally. I hate them both. Oh, God. Honestly, it's amazing, though. It's amazing the things that people will say to you when you're a woman who does stand-up, especially when you're a mum. Fucking hell, the amount of times I've had people come up to me. I had someone come up to me and she's like, any good, your husband? Any good? Any good? Looking after his own children. Isn't he good? While you're out there every night on a stage like a slut. And I kid you not, word for word, that was my mother-in-law. So, thank you very much, guys. You've been lovely.
Esther Manito, everybody!
Hello, Guilty Feminist. This is Deborah. I'll be in Chichester because I've written a play called Never Have I Ever, which will be on in Chichester at the Minerva for the whole of September. It stars Alexandra Roach, Amit Shah, Greg Wise, and our very own Susan Wokoma. And it's about money, sex, power, politics, and running a restaurant. For tickets, go to cft.org.uk. That's cft.org.uk. And we'll be recording more live shows in the autumn, so keep an eye on our website, guiltyfeminist.com. Live shows. You can get ad-free episodes via Patreon, Apple Podcasts, or Acast Plus. And if you're passing iTunes or Spotify, you felt like leaving us a 5-star review, we'd love you forever. It helps other people find the show. And now, back to the podcast.
Are we ready for our guest? I love British audiences. If you asked that in America, if you said to an American audience, are we ready for our guest? They would immediately just go, ah! And British audience will go, let me think about it. I mean, I guess. Yeah. No, we'd like to see the guest. We don't want to go ballistic over it.
I've just come back from performing in America, and there's a joke that I do, which always works well here. It's a joke about how I've killed my husband. And see, right, and you guys laugh, but like when I did it in America, every time I did it, they'd all go, ugh. And I was like, he's clearly not. I'm not going to murder him and then joke about it on stage and go about like that.
No, it's one or the other, that,
well,
isn't it?
Yeah. Hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
You never see him.
It's a very different thing performing in America. It really, really is. But the whoops are lovely.
It's amazing.
It's lovely whooping.
Yeah.
Not that you're not doing well. I mean, for a British audience, you're whooping quite nicely.
We're just saying between the two.
Yeah. Oh, no. If we compared you with an American audience, no. Any Americans in? No. Yeah, I know for a certainty there aren't, because if there had been, they would have gone, woo!
Yeah.
Okay. Our guest today is the only Filipina comedian in British stand-up and has a Bachelor of Science in Experimental Pathology and a Master of Science in Forensic Science and a PhD in Virology under her belt. So it's not only her comedy that's highly intelligent. Her Friday night topical comedy show, United Nations of News, aired on BBC Radio 4 in August and is available on BBC Sounds. Please welcome to the stage the incredible Ria Lina! Ria, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's delightful to have you here. So we wanted to talk about how we balance our lives and the news, because it's something I struggle with all the time. Does anyone else feel this, that it's like, I'm not doing enough? And sometimes I just can't look at another thing. Like, do you ever have a news story where you go, I can't take that on? I can't know about that. Does anyone have that? Well, I have to scroll at a certain thing because I just go, I just can't know, because knowing and not being able to do anything about it is actually causing so much anxiety in my body. Do people relate to this? Like, we want to be activists, we want to be feminists, we want to engage, we want to try, and at the same time, there's too much happening. And, like, how do you hold it? What do you do with it? How do you not... If you just withdraw and you look away entirely, you feel like, oh, I'm someone who doesn't care. And if you look at it too much, you feel so weighed down by it and you think, what can I do? So, Ria, how do you cope with this balance? Because you're doing a topical news show. You're clearly somebody who is who cares, because you wouldn't be doing the show if you didn't care, and you wouldn't be, hired to do the show if you weren't someone who was very engaged with the news. How do you cope with this?
I think, first of all, one of the lucky things about doing topical comedy shows is that we do avoid the stories you can't joke about.
Yeah.
We do automatically park those to one side. So I don't think that I've ever, in the last 18 months, for example, done a single topical comedy show where we've talked about what's happening in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Which, again, makes me feel guilty. Even now, I feel guilty. I follow a number of journalists, and today on one of their stories, they just went, we went to this place, it got attacked, this is what it looks like now. And then on his story, he went, hashtag don't forget Ukraine. And it's exactly this that we're talking about, that because it becomes this constant sort of noise, you end up shutting it off. And then when it does remind you, you feel hugely guilty about it. And the only thing I can do to counterbalance that is I have sons as well. And so the biggest counterbalance I do when I'm feeling guilty about not addressing a bigger issue in the world is I turn around and go, be better men than your father. And that's, you can love your father, but don't be like him. That is my party line. So you can love him, but don't be like him. And then I turn around and I just go, all I can do is make the people I've made like better in the world. Like it's all I can control, or like go through the recycling and make sure it's, washed, so that they actually recycle it. It's just little things. You just sort of go, I can't deal with that, so I'm going to do something small.
Yeah.
Like that.
But the desire to do a topical news show, is that in part, because I listen to it, it's very funny, and is that in part to engage people with the news who might otherwise not engage?
Ideally, yes. And I think that actually there was a huge swathe of people that said that they got their news regularly from Mock the Week. And then, their aunts and uncles got it from Have I Got News for You? Because it's very generational, isn't it? But yeah, I think that's the important thing. And United Nations of News, what we did is we specifically took international comedians. So we talked about an issue in the UK, which, I won't say all the jokes, but we talked about climate change, which is exactly one of those subjects, which is so huge and so difficult for us to encompass that actually we're actually not having the conversation about it. Or we talk about it, but we're not doing anything about it. Every year we have a COP somewhere in the world and a whole bunch of politicians get together and go, oh, yes, we promise things. And then they go away and just go, I don't know how to do the prompt. We'll just move economy, ULEZ, something else. I've had another baby. Is it mine? Yes. And so's that other one that you won't own up to. So we took those 4 comedians and then we said, but what's happening where you are? Because that's the other thing, is that we end up so focused. One of the fascinating things that you were talking about traveling in the States, one of the amazing things that blows my mind when I go to the States is when you switch on the news in whichever state you're in, the news is only about like a radius within the state that you're in, because it's so vast as a country that they cannot possibly encompass all of the things that are happening in their state, let alone in the country, let alone in the rest of the world. And we can get like that. We get very focused on what's happening to us locally, and that's understandable. And so this show is sort of like, well, let's help assuage that guilt and go, well, here's something that's happening, in Malawi because we had Deliso on, or here's something happening in Spain because we had Ignacio Lopez on, and they brought us little bits of news from where they're at, which was really fun. And I know a lot more about the Spanish political system than I ever thought I would.
I think comedy can be such a great way of breaking down our barrier to engage with something. Like when I watch John Oliver, I'm like, I've learned so much from John Oliver because the jokes make it palatable enough, but he is so good at switching gears between something really being serious and terrible, and then he does a joke that still respects the work or respects the topic. And it just means you can get through it, but you learn a lot from doing that kind of thing. Do you think if you get to do more episodes of this, you might go deeper in a John Oliver style fashion? Like, what do you want to do with the show?
It's like you opened my head and read my dreams. I love the Daily Show, what Jon Stewart did with it, and then the mantle that John Oliver picked up after him. I would love to do all of that. I would love to be able to go deep. I mean, my dream is just a room full of researchers working for me. I'm just like, yes, please, let's look all of this up, and then present it in a very palatable way. I think that's something that came from, you mentioned all of my degrees. Thank you. Like all of them. I forgot I had some of those because I don't use them anywhere near as much as I should. But one of the things that I learned from doing that is science communication. And one of the things that science communication is that I love is taking complex concepts and then helping people understand them. I think that's one of the advantages or one of the privileges of education is to be able to go, okay, listen, I've done this, so you don't have to, but here, let me pass that on. Let me spread that out. And I love that aspect of the job. And I think I'd love to be able to do that for the news the way that John Oliver does that.
I very much hope you get to do more, but I'm glad you've done what you've done so far, and I really enjoyed listening to it. I liked the perspective of so many different international comedians, and it made me feel less like I was listening to global news from the source of the BBC or a British news source. It made it feel like I was getting different perspectives from around the world and also learning about new news stories. Esther, how do you feel about the news?
Well, I think that my problem with news and news consumption is the fact that I've got a real scroll culture going on. And I'm not going to speak for everyone, but I will scroll news. And I think that has created a real problem in that I have an idea of different things, but it doesn't allow me to ever get a real when you're saying making it more digestible, I think that's a good thing, because I think now the way we access news, it isn't the same as reading a newspaper or listening to a news broadcast. We're now scrolling, and we've got, social media, and so we're kind of just accessing all these kind of little tidbits all the time. So it can, I remember during COVID, I felt like I was actually going insane. Like I genuinely was sat there going, you're having so many different arguments and opinions, and that really clogs what news is coming across. So you kind of find yourself just going, I'm just going a bit mad here. Might just be because I don't have 12 degrees.
No, I feel the same way.
But
I really
nobody
don't.
can know everything that has to be known now.
Growing up in a mixed heritage household, because my dad's Lebanese, and then Lebanese politics is the most fucking complicated thing. Honestly, if you put a gun to my head, which could very well happen in Lebanon, I still cannot understand the Lebanese the structure of government. It is so complicated. And so I then spent most of my early 20s really trying to understand Lebanese politics. And then I got to a point where I was like, I don't think I can comprehend the two political systems on the same kind of depth. So I found a lot of my youth was more kind of focused in one area. And it has made me a little bit more disconnected, I think, from UK politics. I don't know why I've just gone down the politics route, but that definitely...
Yeah, I understand. No, because it's part of it. If we don't understand how the political system works, how can we know what levers to try and push to change it? I think understanding our political system is huge.
But that's why I'm so grateful to everyone who is an activist, because, we're living in a world of extremes right now. We're living in a place where people seem to be falling either on one side of a coin or the other, and there's no gray area in between. But one of the advantages of having your extreme activists is that they pull people in different directions, and they go further than any of us ever realistically can with every pressure that we have in our life. And I think we have to be grateful to them for, if they glue themselves to the floor, or whether they're making, very incredibly biased documentaries about what is a woman, or all of the things that they do at the extreme edges. But that's what allows the rest of us to do a little bit in that direction more than we otherwise would. And I think that's an important thing to remember, is that it is the extremists that pull us in various directions. And that's where I will say evolution happens, as opposed to the word progress, because evolution is non-directional. And I think that's important to remember.
Say that again. Evolution
is non-directional.
What does that mean?
So everyone thinks that we use the term in colloquial language that to be evolved is to be better than what we were before, but that's not actually how evolution works. Evolution just works. It's in response to pressure, and pressure can. So, for example. Moths. There were moths that before the Industrial Revolution used to be the color of tree barks. But then as the Industrial Revolution came in and trees started to get covered in soot and surfaces started to become more black and gray, they changed from a brown color to a gray color in that any brown moth was getting eaten because it could be seen, and all of those that were slightly gray or darker were not being seen because they were blending into the new industrial background. And over time, those moths evolved to be a different color. Now, that's not better. It just happened that in that environment at the time, they survived more efficiently. So in science, evolution isn't, we are better now than we ever were, because I would argue, actually, right now, we're getting shorter again as a human race. We got to a point where we were sort of at peak.
You don't mean by height?
Height. We're starting... Well, because what's happened is... So there was a point...
Sorry. Am I the only one who didn't know that?
We're getting... Yes, so...
They're like, they should have clicked on the story instead of scrolling, Esther.
Sorry, human beings are getting shorter.
We're getting shorter
we got taller and now we're getting shorter.
We used to all be taller than our parents, but actually now we're starting to see generations that are shorter than their parents.
At some point that's got to level off, because otherwise we'd end up as tall as trees.
Well, have you watched basketball? People can get very tall.
Yeah, no, I know, but everyone can't be as tall as the tallest basketballer.
This is true, but the reason that we're starting to get shorter is because, as you know, we farm so much that a lot of the nutritional value, the individual nutritional value of a tomato is not what it was 100 years ago. Right. But secondly, we're eating so much processed food that we're also starting to see the effects of that. We're seeing, we see the effects of that on even sperm numbers. Sperm rates have gone down drastically in the last... So we are evolving.
When you say sperm rates have gone down, you mean...
Per teaspoon?
Are you having a good date? Let's talk Emma's sperm count.
Please still use contraception. Be safe. But
for your tiny babies.
So, hold on a second. In a teaspoon of product...
Product. Yeah, sure. Product.
There are fewer swimmers.
There were fewer swimmers.
Okay, and that's because of processed food. That's because we eat string cheese.
Generally,
or whatever,
in terms of what we're being exposed to, in terms of pollutants, in terms of our poor diets and everything else, we are. It's an accumulative effect.
So we're getting
of
shorter,
our environment. Shorter,
and there'll be and there's fewer
Less of us.
Well, okay.
but-
now we're
but-
getting really sciencey. Guilty Feminist does science. Okay.
But hold on. People are still getting pregnant. So, there's way more sperm than anyone needs, isn't there? Like, there's so many more swimmers. Like, when you think about how many swimmers a man will ejaculate in a lifetime, somebody just went, ugh.
Okay, but it's not. It's okay, but it's
Most people will only have 1, 2, or 3 babies or none.
I was going to say 1, 2, or 3 sperm. I was like, Jesus Christ.
No,
that too, actually.
And men have thousands of swimmers, don't they? So
yeah, but it isn't. It's not just how many; it's also the quality thereof. They're not always making it.
They're not making their own.
They're not making. No, they're not like the sperm are not always making it to the egg.
Oh, I see. The swimmers are poor swimmers.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, because you were talking briefly about Just Like That, but is that true then? You know, in Harry, yes. You know when he has an orgasm but nothing comes out.
So
who are we talking about?
Okay.
The Sex don't know Harry.
So the Sex of the City reboot is called And Just Like That.
I'm so loving that this is on the Guilty Feminist. Of course, the Sex and the City reboot.
And so we call it the reheal, but it's the when one of the characters ejaculates.
Okay. Right.
Don't know. I did the action.
He has what they call a dust bowl, which means there's no product. Yeah.
Well,
and so he ejaculates, but nothing comes
Did he
out.
have a vasectomy? Because there's no product after a vasectomy.
I
mean, there's liquid.
They went to the doctor,
no...
and the doctor gave him something to do, so it started happening again. But apparently, this can happen to men. But he was in his 50s, and they said it happens sometimes when you get older. I feel like we veered away from our main topic.
I mean.
How have we ended up talking about ejaculate? But that's a great point. It's a great... So I'm sorry.
So going back to... I'm just saying, remember that evolution is not necessarily progress, is what I meant.
Yes. Okay,
that's where we came from.
I hear that. So sometimes we are going forward and we are changing, but not in the right direction. So, for example, we're getting shorter and sperm are swimming poorly.
Well, actually, for example, we're becoming less able to rationally debate things as the internet, for example, gave everybody the belief that their opinion mattered as much as everyone else's. And I'm not saying it doesn't. But what I'm saying is that the consequence of everybody having equal voice means that now we're at a point where we go, well, no, that is my opinion or that is my belief, and I don't need to change that no matter what is put in front of me.
Don't you think that's also the internet, though? Because we're not having conversations face to face. It's so easy to write something with sheer aggression and then someone responds and you're just having this really aggressive interaction. If you have that conversation, I think if you sit down with most people, you can have a rational conversation. I don't think that's possible online. If you start off from two opposing...
I agree. I think the internet started something, and I think that it's now spilling over into your life. I mean, as a comedian, one of the things that we've discovered coming back, and in theatre actually, coming back after the pandemic, is that more and more people are piping up in shows. Generally you have a contract.
Not
if we
tonight.
speak to you... No, but if we speak to you, you speak back. But just, a lot of them are calling out or heckling or speaking up. And a lot of the times it's literally just they say a comment and we go, this isn't YouTube. We're not like commenting under the video as it happens. But because we spent 3 years indoors all commenting under people's content, it's now moved itself into the live theatre space and people are doing the same thing.
I had to...
If anyone's commented tonight, by the way, I have encouraged it. So she's not talking about you.
And I love your comments. I love the fact that a man adores putting tents up. They don't have doors. I mean, that's like classically a tent has no doors. But he adored it.
No, they do have doors.
Well, no, they have flaps.
Zip doors. Flaps.
This is why we don't. That's why women don't put them up. We have enough flaps.
I don't need more flaps. Let's not get into flaps now. Now,
it's me, isn't it? I'm bringing everything down.
It's you're the problem, it's you. Yes. Now...
That's what everyone says. No, but can I just in response to that, I did this routine about how ball bags aren't particularly attractive, and I was doing it, right? And let's face it, they do look like the next skin of a walrus, and I was like, wah. And this guy, really angrily in the audience, he just went, but my girlfriend loves mine. And you're just like, where do you think we are? And his girlfriend was just next to him, like, I cannot believe you've just shouted that out. And he wasn't doing it in a, I want to argue with you. He just wanted to
Comment onto the YouTube,
Yeah, onto YouTube.
I think
his
that
poor girlfriend.
I think you're right about the internet spilling into life. I agree with you that mostly when you talk to someone face to face, you can have a conversation where you can say, well, have you thought about it like this? And you can get somebody to empathise and you can empathise with their point of view. And the internet has polarised us horrifyingly. And I also think now sometimes it's harder to have conversations in real life because people are fixed to a position. And it is something that I think we need to start looking at. And I wonder if it is something where we need to have more discussions around the news. And I wonder if there's something about having a place and a time for it almost, like having a space where we could discuss things. Because I think part of it is, I mean, people sometimes say to me, oh, I wouldn't say this online. You know, I wouldn't be able to say this, but just between you and me.
And nor should you most of the time, I think.
Yeah.
I think, you know, because it's so easy to sit there behind your egg emoji thing and just say whatever it is that you're feeling behind your computer because you're not being...
When you sit behind your egg.
You know what's that
you
thing
from
called?
Apple.
Yeah, I know.
Your
icons.
no profile picture.
Yeah, your no profile picture
yeah.
to say stuff. It's much harder when you have to actually author your own opinions with your face.
Yes. And I think people would hardly ever say the aggressive things and the mean things that they say or the abusive things that they say online to somebody's face. I think hardly ever. And I'm not saying never, but I'm saying
And if they do,
ever.
you just reply, I'm 13.
Which is the legal age to be on Facebook. Randomly.
When you're doing the Radio 4 show, the United Nations of Comedy, do you get so steeped in the news that you sometimes need to take a break from it because you're so overwhelmed by how many different stories you now do know about?
There is that, with any topical show, there is that process right at the beginning of the week, because with the topical show, you're going to be recording it on, say, a Thursday and it goes out on a Friday. So you are only looking at a concentration of 5 days worth of news because, in theory, the week before they covered everything up to that point. And then you're looking at the entire thing going, I can't possibly read and take this all on board. And then you get lost down rabbit holes and and then you end up learning a lot in 1 week about what happened in that week, most of which you don't end up doing on the show. And then there are other things like, we had Ignacio Lopez from Spain and they just had an election. And so I had to then cram up on the significant... I mean, think about how much we talk about British politics and the nuances of, Keir Starmer and the blue wall and all those little terms that we just know from talking about it a little bit in the pub once in a while. Then I had to do all of that for the Spanish election and try and get my head around that. And it ended up being one joke. Which I can't remember if it made it to the... Did it make it?
Yes.
Yeah, we did. We did one joke, yeah.
I worry about our heads. And recently a friend of mine collapsed because she was overworked and dehydrated. And I had it this week that I've been really, really overworked more than I ever have in my life at night. And good things that I love. I'm having the time of my life. It's amazing. But I worry about two things. One is the more I do creative pursuits, I'm doing a play at the moment and I'm working on other writing projects, the more I go, I should be doing more activism, I should be doing more feminism. And the other day I got up in the morning to do personal training on Zoom because I have to exercise a lot if I'm working really hard or I just can't do it to get the energy. And the personal trainer said, can you pick up the weights? And I felt this searing pain going through my head, like a knife going through my head, but only when I moved. And I went, oh, this is happening. And I said, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to open. I always have this great fear. Jonathan Larson, does anyone know Jonathan Larson? He wrote Rent. And he'd been trying to write musicals for years, and then he wrote Rent, and he died of an aneurysm on the day of the first preview, so he never even got to see a preview. And then it was this iconic show, and he's such a loss to musical theatre.
Was it
That's
Tick,
right.
Tick Boom?
Tick Tick Boom is the story of Jonathan Larson told
Spider-Man
through
plays him.
his one-man show, played by Andrew Garfield, etc.
That one's
such a good show. It's directed by
Spider-Man to me.
Miranda. So I had that moment of going, I said to my personal trainer, am I going to be, not that I'm saying my show's going to be Rent, but I'm like, oh my God, am I going to be like Jonathan Larson? Am I going to just drop dead? And he went, what did you drink yesterday? And I have to write a lot of copy as well as, you have to write the official play text. And so I was at the desk while in the rehearsal room all day working on the play and then also writing through coffee breaks and stuff. And I said, actually, my water bottle ran out of water in the morning and I didn't have time to fill it up. Now, of course I did. Of course I had time to fill it up. I just went, that's a thing. I didn't ask a stage manager or anyone else to help. So I said, I didn't really drink much yesterday except coffee. And he went, and that'll be it. And he said, you cannot do personal training today with a knife going through your head. You have to go back to bed. And I did go back to bed and I finished the play text in bed. So I was thrilled. But also, I don't think that's what he meant. And so last night I came after the rehearsal day. I did the Guilty Feminist here. And I went across the road afterwards to get something to eat and drink with the guest. And which I thought was self-care, like I needed to just to have a break and, And I was talking to her and her face started turning into a cartoon face. And I was like, oh, I'm hallucinating. I think I have to go home. And I went home and slept. And I just went, you're clearly maxing out now. You have to see the signs in your body. And the way that I'm putting it to myself is sometimes we go out to the, House of Parliament, Trafalgar Square, wherever, and we hold up signs to the government saying, this immigration bill is disgusting, or, you are, repeal the 8th, or, we take our signs and we protest. And sometimes I'm starting to understand my body is holding up a sign, and I am, in this case, the government. And the sign is saying, the stabbing pain is a sign, the hallucination is a sign, and it's saying, please, the government, could you have a fucking glass of water? Or lie down. And you have to listen. You have to listen to the sign. So what I've done is come out to do another show because I didn't want to cancel. But I'm fine. No, I'm fine. But this, I wanted to talk about it because I worry we're getting unbalanced, or maybe it's just me, but I feel like there's a pace of life now. There's a responsibility to the wider world. There's a responsibility to your personal life. And how do we balance it? Because I am doing a terrible job at the moment. Like terrible job. Esther, you've got children and a big... How do we do it? Ria, you're so smart. You're so clever. Everything you say sounds so clever. Can you give us some advice on how we balance?
How do we be people?
How do we... Oh, okay. I genuinely, you have to put yourself first. I just read it today I was scrolling, and I read it today. You have to put your own oxygen mask on first before you can help anybody else. So that's number one. And one of the things that my mother said to me, she had me and my sister, I have 3 kids, is she said it is our responsibility as higher intelligent beings to make people and raise them to be, good contributors to society. And you can't do that if you yourself are not in the best of health. So you have to put yourself first. And sometimes you have to recognize that when you're feeling stressed about something, like sometimes when I am feeling stressed, I do have to go through the recycling, because that's like the small thing that I can do to make sure that all of my waste that week actually does get recycled. Because I don't know if you know this, but if it's dirty, they chuck it in with all the rest of the rubbish and they don't recycle it. Or if you put something in there that doesn't belong in there, they go, the whole bag's tainted, and they chuck it. So it's even small things like that where you just go, what little thing can I do? And it's little things like, whenever there were times in the gig economy where I couldn't get a gig, or I was like, I don't know how to pay my rent next month. I don't have enough money coming in, especially around the time of the pandemic. What could I do? Well, the only thing I could do was work on the business itself and go, right, I'm going to write some jokes, or I'm going to work on a website, or I'm going to, put content out, or just find those little other things that you can do, because that is the best way to resolve your panic. Going back to the science, I found out that if you do wall squats and planks, that is the best way to lower your blood pressure, not drugs or other. Those are the 2 best things. Tell your parents. Planks and wall squats are the best way to lower your...
What's a wall squat? I don't even know what that is.
Is there a wall?
I have never done one because I don't know what it is.
She said tell your parents.
Where you lean against the wall, and then squat down. That's not a wall. But, it's a wall, and then you just do this, and that is the best way to lower your blood pressure. So if you're getting high blood pressure, or you're feeling... And I've done it, and it works. There are times, before a show where I'm totally freaking out, and there's too much on my plate, and I've got... All my kids are WhatsApping me, because that's how you parent now, is on WhatsApp. Once your kids get older, it's just WhatsApp. I haven't talked to them in months. I call them down to dinner on the WhatsApp group. Anyway, so you just do a plank. Honestly, just do a plank for a minute, and it's amazing. It just redistributes all the,
I think
pressure.
You may have just saved my life. If I survive this year, it's because Ria Lina taught me the patented wall plank squat.
You could plank the wall. It's not as hard, but...
I'm planking that wall, baby. I'm planking that wall. All of your faces currently look like human faces, so I'm winning. Now, seriously, it was quite scary. we have to wrap up because Esther has to go and do another show. But I hope that somewhere in this conversation you have learnt something. I've learnt so much tonight. I've learnt more than I normally do.
We're
with a
getting
Guilty
smaller.
Feminist.
That's still messing with my head. That's the only thing I'm taking from this.
The fact is, your kids might never be taller than you. Do you know how much domination
My kids
you will
are
have
giant
over them?
now.
Oh, are
They're
they?
ridiculous.
Okay,
Yeah.
no,
Well,
mine are all bigger than me as well. But then I married a tree. So I then divorced the tree. I mean, get this. I'm a feminist, but I still live with my ex-husband because there's just shit around the house I don't want to deal with.
Wow. Do
Yeah.
you live with your ex-husband?
Yeah.
And she
So
says
that he
just
can
at
put
the
up
end.
pictures and put up tents.
Just he does, normally he does the recycling and all that. There's stuff in the back courtyard. I just go, where is it? And he'll go into the back and dig it out, and I'll rinse it off. There's just stuff that he does that I think about. I was just like, oh, I'd like to live on my own, and then I think about all the stuff that he actually does that I don't want to deal with.
No
and I'm
more
like,
camping
yeah,
holidays for you if you
Oh, we don't go camping.
lucky bitch.
We don't. It's because
All
we
right.
don't love each other. That was your mistake.
I need to do the closing titles. Firstly, Esther Manito, have you got anything to plug? Anything we should
Yeah,
follow?
can you come upstairs and come to my show, please?
Okay. So what time's your show?
It's at 9 o'clock. It's called Hell Hath No Fury, and it's just an hour of rage.
Okay, great. If you'd like an hour of rage, go and grab a drink in the bar and then go upstairs to see Esther Manito. And we can also follow you on socials. Ria Lina.
I'm on tour this autumn, September to November, first leg. It's called Reawakening.
Nice.
Thank you. And it's about a lot of feminism stuff. So if you're into this, you're probably into my thing.
I think everyone listening to this is going to come to Reawakening because we've learnt you're like a human Wikipedia, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, it's insane.
It's insane. It's
I
insane.
know.
I also do very much want to see your show though as well because I also love Blind Rage. Now,
See an Essex bird having a meltdown.
and if you've got access to BBC Sounds, if you're in Britain and you've got access to BBC Sounds, could you please go online and listen to United Nations of News because it will help us get more episodes of it, which is what we want. And maybe even tweet and say, oh, BBC, could you please give us, BBC Radio 4, could you please give us some more episodes? What do you want? Post about it.
Yeah, you can't tweet about it anymore.
Why?
Because he got rid of, he calls the X now. You have to post.
Oh, no one listens
and
to
you
that.
can't, and
I know it's tweeting. Come on. Don't start saying X or he's won. I'm not saying X. I'm not saying X, and I'm not saying. I think we just.
it might not exist by the time this goes out because he's about to get rid of the block button, and if he gets rid of the block button, it won't qualify for Apple and Android marketplaces.
really?
So he might,
God, you know
Okay.
so much.
You know
like I
everything
said, I
there
don't
is to
spend
know.
time with my kids, and this is how you spend too much time with your kids. If you scrolled more, you'd know more. All this
Honestly-
parenting and camping crap.
Honestly, I may buy it and call it I'm 13. And have a whip round. Listen, can you please try I'm 13 if it happens? And then just could you email me guiltyfeminist@gmail.com? You have no idea the pleasure I got of someone, or slide into our DMs on socials, either of those, the pleasure I got at finding out that a man had run. That
Or
was
do
so
the
good.
opposite. Like if someone's got a baby and people are like, oh, your baby's so cute. She's 13.
That's
Just fuck with them.
I mean, it's so funny. You have been listening to The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Francis White, guest co-host Esther Manito, and our very special guest, Ria Lina. The recording engineer was Grundy Liz Ember, music was by Mark Hodge, the producer was Tom Salinsky for The Spontaneity Shop. Thanks to Rachel Craftsman, Gina Dicio, Zainab Mohammed, and everyone at Soho Theatre, as well as all of you for listening. For more information about this and other episodes, visit guiltyfeminist.com. Thank you so much, everybody. You've been one of the finest audiences of your generation. What? The circles?
I was wanking 2 clips.
This is Esther's first time co-hosting. I can't believe you literally said the words wanking and clits. I think either
Is that not feminism? Is that not what it is?
I think either of those words in a sentence is fine.
Fine.
I think you've over-egged the pudding, so to speak, which is my innuendo for wanking and clit.
The Guilty Feminist is provided exclusively from Acast. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.